And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in podcast land. Brendan Cunningham, the real estate doctor from EXP. Matt Paul does it all. You're going to see just what I'm talking about today because he's going to run a few things that we normally just sort of skip around about. He's going to get it into depth. So a lot of times people ask us, so how's the market?
Very generic question.
Okay, so typically, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, right now it's in our area. It's real hot still. There's a lot of demand and low inventory. So
and it's a complex answer.
Yeah,
because there's all these moving parts, and you know you could be talking about, well, I want to buy a house in Tonawanda. Okay, is it single family? Is it double family? Is it investment property? Is it commercial? Is all these things. So you really got to peel all the layers back to really give it the correct response.
Agreed.
So having said that, residential tends to be in most markets almost like at best on parallel paths.
Yes.
And sometimes they diverge. I think right now, especially in Western New York, we're divergent.
Yeah, as we mentioned last week, right?
Residential very different from commercial.
Yeah.
And you know, when we were talking about some of the things we want to talk about before we started, I said, well, let me ask you something. If you had an office building in downtown Buffalo, would you feel good about it?
Yeah. Right now,
maybe not.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about some of those things. So typically, first of all, if somebody's looking for an agent, what should they look for?
Yeah, commercial?
On anything.
Anything? Well, somebody that's knowledgeable, that's, has a good experience in that area.
Okay, so if they're thinking about commercial, they should probably talk to somebody that has knowledge in that area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the whole thing about specialization. If you go to the doctor, he may send you to a dermatologist. He can probably tell you it's just a mole, but he's always going to send you to somebody that's got that specific expertise.
Yep.
All right, so with respect to commercial, so am I right that I wouldn't want to have?
Yeah, right now, most people that are holding on to office space are looking at different ways to retrofit that to a use that would be in demand right now, because we have seen nationally that a lot of people are coming back to the office more this year than years past since COVID. So that is a good sign. However, there is a lot of inventory of office space that's sitting vacant right now.
A lot of it. In fact, some of the buildings downtown that are office buildings actually do have residential space, like the Seneca Tower.
Correct. Yep.
A lot of residential stuff in there that no one even knows about.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that's there. So, and one of the things that I know is very different with the client base, the purchasing base.
Yeah.
Residential buyers, they're looking for the feelies.
Yeah, it's an emotional buy.
It's an emotional thing. I love the view. I love the school system, all this kind of stuff. Commercial, not so much.
It's all business. It's all numbers.
It's all numbers. Yep. I could care if it's next to toxic waste. If I can make the numbers work. I know that sounds like a crazy thing to say, but hey, we have had the Love Canal.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're in an industry that is industrial, that does have some pollution, I mean, that's where you would want to be.
Yeah, and we have, and that's a whole separate
topic.
Series of shows about all the brownfields and gray field. We've had some bad stuff up here.
Yep.
I did have to laugh when my daughter, who is an attorney, when she was thinking of going into environmental law, she says, "Have you heard about this place called the Love Canal?" I just chuckled. There's a story on page 1 for 2 years.
Yeah, sure was.
So, okay, so let's talk about if you're a cold-hearted investor, like most commercial people are, and I'm being flippant.
Yeah.
They're looking at the numbers.
Yes.
Tell me how they look at the numbers.
So most of them will look at it.
Tell our audience how they
most investors are coming to you or coming to me with, a very specific need, a very specific style, size, location, and then they're also looking at a capitalization rate. Cap rate.
Okay, which again, we're going to do abbreviations, which I hate, and shorten like capitalization rate, cap rate.
Cap rate.
Okay.
Yep.
Explain yourself, Lucy.
Yeah,
so
the cap rate is a very generic way of valuing a property. And
good deal versus bad deal.
Good deal versus bad deal, and it's a rate of return, essentially. So it's the net operating income divided by the sale price.
You wrote a formula.
Yep.
Net, here's the abbreviations, you're killing it.
Yeah.
Net operating income divided by price equals the cap rate. Let's plug some numbers in there.
Yep. Okay.
So we can actually see what this works like.
Yep. Might need a calculator.
Okay, well, we'll keep it easy.
But typically around here, a lot of the investors that I've been dealing with like to see at least an 8% return.
8 is the magic number here.
Yes, and that's in Western New York.
In Western New York, okay.
There are, I was mentioning to Brendan before the podcast, there are properties that are up for sale right now. For instance, we have Rite Aid's pharmacy.
That's where I get my drugs, Rite Aid.
Well, the news just came out. They filed Chapter 11, and now all of the locations in our area will be going up for sale.
And they danced around it every time. You guys go, oh no, we're going to. This is the one that stays open.
Yeah,
oh no,
yeah.
we're going to.
I heard the same thing. They're like, we'll fill the shelves eventually.
Yeah. So I went over to Walgreens and said, listen, can I move my this? You can move over. So evidently that's a done deal. It's a shame.
It is, but that's happening in our market, and a lot of the properties that didn't make it a year ago. There's been, at least I'd say half of the Rite Aids have already closed, and they're selling at more of a 4% cap rate.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So Rite Aid is 4.
Yeah. So the local.
So they should get a 50% lower return.
Yes, and I had local investors call me on these and say, hey, I'm interested in buying, and then once they hear the numbers, they're like, no, it's off the table. So you're probably targeting more of a national or a global company that would settle for that 4% return with the bigger picture in mind.
Okay, so 8% is what they could probably expect would be a good thing.
Yeah, a good investor will. If you price
it
it at an 8% cap rate, you're going to have attention.
Is that are the properties being priced that way or not?
Yes,
they are.
Yep, okay. A lot of cases. Yep.
So there. Any speculation on what the highest return rate was in Western New York?
Oh, I have seen 10 to 12% cap rates, but then when you do see that, you really want to look at the numbers, because not always are the numbers true, accurate. They could be fudged in certain ways, or there could be certain aspects that weren't plugged in terms of expenses.
Well, yeah. So your net operating income could be one piece of information, but then you look at the building and it needs, let's say it's the Statler building, and it needs a whole new facade.
Yeah.
And that has to get factored in there.
100%. Okay. Absolutely. Yep.
And I saw, interestingly enough, they're kind of getting a little worried about the Statler.
Yeah, since
they're kind of dragging their heels. It's not happening. I was wondering about that too.
Well, after
the downstairs all nice.
After Mark Croce passed, and he was the one that really headed up and started to get that the renovations going again, it kind of has fallen to the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Jamal, I think, is a great developer. I think he's got a lot of things going on.
Absolutely, but like you said, he has a lot going on.
I'd like to see that happen rather than him
sell it or flip it.
Another guy flipping it.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so 12 has been a number that has.
I have seen it. Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
8 is kind of where you are, and around. Well, this would be Rite Aid.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. You got it.
And if I was looking to buy commercially right now, would I buy one of these buildings?
A Rite Aid, that would be depending on what your use was, and are you going to look to scale and to possibly assume several other locations that are very similar, built to almost the same size and have all the same amenities? I would think so.
Okay, and are you seeing any of the office buildings doing mixed use conversions or residential?
A little bit. It's starting to happen.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yep. It's like, I was talking to a New York broker yesterday, and it's like, we were doing that stuff 40 years ago, and it's only just starting to touch the surface here.
But like we've mentioned, on many other podcasts, Buffalo's a slow-moving city.
Slow. Not a lot happens here. It takes a while, and that's a good thing ultimately. Yeah. Because you're not going to have the busts.
Yeah. The peaks and valleys.
Mini booms. Little mini boom. You're always going to get a sound return on your investment, 3%, like clockwork. But in the last couple of years, we have had a sleigh ride.
Yes. Absolutely.
But, so it's different. So the magical cap rate that's the benchmark for a good investment.
Yes, that's the basis point that most investors are targeting, the cap rate, and then if that looks desirable enough, then they'll dig into the financials.
Typically, like with residential, people buying 2 and 3 family houses, I don't know that they're thinking this way.
No. And commercial,
they could be, and they should be probably. Keep it as a business.
But as you know, in commercial, or multifamilies turn into a commercial multifamily property after 5 units or more.
Right.
So
5, the magic number.
Yeah, 1 to 4. It's not.
Beautiful.
It's not a commercial. You don't need a commercial loan. It's not a commercially zoned property, and most investors aren't looking at cap rate, but they'll do their own formulas. And
well, they did like our friend Troy, who's on a team. I love it. His first property he buys, 4 family.
Yeah.
It's the Arnold Schwarzenegger way of doing business.
Yep.
And I think when he calculates, he says, okay, this is my mortgage payment. I have 3 rents paying this. Oh, I'm in the black.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not quite as sophisticated as the cap rate, but it makes sense.
Yeah. And also another way, a lot of investors that I know that have 2 to 3 family properties, they look at, okay, like you said, what is my ultimate expense per month? And if I can, live in it and have that paid for, it makes sense. If I can double it, so where all my expenses are paid, and then I put the same amount of money into my pocket every month, then that is a really solid investment.
Yeah, and with respect to what you can get the tenants to pay, sometimes you can get them to pay for some things, but typically, it's interesting. This market is different than other markets in terms of what you can expect
tenants to pay, as opposed to New York, right?
In New York, you pay for everything. I mean, it's just what it is.
Yep.
But like water and sewer, typically, I see that they're usually they're included in the rent.
Yes, because it can't be separated. In these properties, there's one sewer line
I've seen
going
people
in.
try, and they say, "Well, I'm in the lower. That's 50%. You're upstairs, so I get 25%."
It's really hard to get an accurate measurement of that.
But you'll see people try. But normally, those are excluded, and typically, most of the units here do have separate utilities.
Correct.
Gas and electric.
Yep. Water is less common. So I know,
I don't know that I can remember seeing.
I've only seen a few properties that do have separate water meters. Most of them are going to be metered with one, and then also garbage. So like in the city of Buffalo.
And they're expensive.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I have a rental. My water is like $1,200 a year.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and they include some things. It's like, garbage is one, sewer fee is another, then your water. But I mean, ultimately,
they call that the user
fee. Public user fee.
I think you're using me. So different markets you can expect to get away with things. Like one of the things that was very common downstate was if you wanted to rent an apartment, you, the renter, paid the broker's fee.
Yep.
Okay, so you'd have to come up with first month security,
last month back then,
sometimes last month, and the broker's fee. And we'd always get a little hinky because sometimes people would try and go and deal with sellers directly, owners directly, and that's just part of the gig. But here, typically the owner pays the fee.
Yeah, typically
if there's a broker. I get it, and everything's negotiable, but typically one side usually pays versus the other, and sometimes they split it. But normally, so that part's different.
On the commercial side of things, I would say it's more of an even split, in terms of closing costs and expenses and things like that. Most of my clients in the commercial side aren't paying for the buyers, anything from the buyers stuff.
Oh God, no. No. Commercial leases they're fun to read.
Well, leases too are totally different.
You read the thing about the firstborn male child. It's in there. You're going to surrender that kid. There's one landlord in town who should remain nameless. They're a huge landlord. But if you ever try to get out of that lease, just leave town.
Yeah, good luck.
And never be seen or heard from.
I think there's a couple
developers.
The
one I'm thinking of, I mean, it's like, you're in that house. Good luck to you. I mean, and great properties too.
Yeah.
But
you
sign up for everything. You're going to pay it.
Absolutely.
And what's interesting about commercial leases and commercial contracts on real estate, you really want to have a really good local real estate attorney. For those.
Yeah, I was just going to say, attorneys
commercial
usually.
Contracts are, talk about exploding cigars. Simple things like snow removal if you're in a strip plaza. Whose responsibility? Oh my God.
Sidewalks, liability. I mean, there's so many.
CAM fees.
Yeah, everything is really thought through.
What's a CAM fee? Oh my God.
Common area maintenance.
Thank you. I hate that. That's another one I don't like. And what's funny about the fees is they'll always just sort of throw them around. Well, the rent is this, and plus the CAM fee.
They kind of fumble over the rest.
Plus the CAM fee.
And the annual increases.
The CAM fee go like this.
And it's a percentage of the overall, duration of the lease. So, but and also, with the lending on commercial is probably one of the larger challenges that we're dealing with right now. And I sat with a commercial lender a week or two ago, and he mentioned that there is actually, he told me only 2% of the deals that he has written in the last opportunities, and they do it by term sheet, not a pre-approval, that he wasn't able to get lended. So that's a complete opposite from most of the local banks that I've talked to. So I do have a guy that is very creative in the commercial world for lending. He's working with another client of mine right now. He has access to SBA loans and all sorts of different government subsidized loans that will ultimately, be a lot more desirable than private money or lending. So, that is
and when you have commercial transactions, another thing that's just sort of standard bill of fare for lenders is they as a rule, they want to do environmental studies.
Oh yeah, I mean that's pretty much required.
Required.
Yeah, phase one
And one of
at
the things that,
least.
I was really scratching my head with on this thing where they want to cover the 33, which I'm not a fan of. I mean, I know people say, well, I know more people that say this is the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's like going to be a $2 billion project. It's going to disrupt the city. But now they're saying, well, we have to stop because we have to do an environmental study.
Mm-hmm.
That's door number one.
I know.
You just figured that out?
Yeah, you didn't start with that?
Come on. It's like having your what I call your boarding pass, your pre-approval letter. You can't get on the plane without that. So now we have to do an environment. Hey, what do I know? But I think it's a goofy
I
project.
have a client that will remain nameless that is that's looking to lease a property just for like a staging ground to house some of his equipment because he's working in between like Niagara Falls and Rochester. And his insurance company requires an environmental phase one on any property they lease, so that they know
that's a big deal.
Yeah, if it's contaminated whatsoever, they know the level of contamination before they moved in, and then they test again after they leave just to make sure that if it's previously contaminated, it's not put on them to rectify because it's very expensive. Yeah, once you get to a phase two, so the phase one's environmental survey is going to explain all the toxicity or anything that's contaminated. Then the phase two, phase three, that's the remediation phases of environmental, where they actually remediate and make the ground clean again.
Yeah, and in residential, you don't get into it too much. I mean, there's a disclosure form that says, do you have any tanks buried in?
And that's on vacant land, right?
But it's on anything, but vacant land especially, you're going to want to see it. And I got to tell you, I know that. I mean, I bought a farm, and whenever you see farms, if they have any kind of acreage, people have buried stuff out there. And it's a half mile from the house. I mean, no one sees. Who the heck knows? I don't know what that's back there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And even rural places that have like a pole barn that was used by the owner, but they were doing oil changes and working on vehicles. Some people dump that stuff right on the ground.
They do. And I've seen people do that. It's not a good thing.
No, it's not the right way to do it.
Sometimes in residential property, you'll see the oil tanks, the 275-gallon tanks or 250. They'll be in the basement.
Yep.
And they now have gas. They've converted, but they leave the tank there.
Yep.
And typically, sometimes what they do is they'll fill them with sand, and they're very heavy to remove. So they just leave them there.
Yep.
They don't touch them.
Nope. But I actually early on in my career, I had a homeowner's insurance company require one of my clients to remove an oil tank, and that was a messy situation.
Well, they're big and they're awkward, and a lot of times they can't fit up the stairs.
Sometimes they're not fully drained too, and if there's
like
old oil,
sludge at the bottom.
Yep. And that's a contaminant, and that's why they required it to be removed, because it was a contaminant that was above ground, and it was tricky, real tricky.
Yeah,
get rid of those. You don't want to cut into those with a chop saw.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
You're going to start
something on fire. A former brother-in-law, he was a great guy, but he had the octopus in his basement with the asbestos. It was so scary.
Oh boy,
it was massive. And then it was converted from a coal furnace. And they burnt oil before they went to gas. So he had the double whammy.
It looked like a freight train, didn't it?
And
huge.
I said, Brian, you're never going to sell this place with this stuff. I mean, I hate to break the news to you. No one's going to buy it. They'll go down there. And he had literally guys go into his basement to just take a look and give him an estimate. They ran out. They ran out. No, eventually he got the right guys.
Good. Yeah.
But it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. All right. Another big thing just came in the news. General Motors.
Oh yeah,
building the plant that's going to make the 8-cylinder engines that the truckers need.
Yep.
Okay,
that's right in Tonawanda, New York.
That's a huge thing.
Yeah, it's almost $1 billion injection into our community.
I'm going to be politically incorrect and say, I hate electric cars. I think they're the stupidest thing in the world, and no one wants them. By and large, and they're building them, and it's never going to work. Yeah. But they need 8-cylinder. That's what they need.
Yeah. I heard on the radio this morning that 50% of electric vehicle owners are not buying them again.
Well, there's no resale market on them.
Yeah, I know.
There's none, zero. Because the battery is like $25,000 sometimes. And
you got to throw it out.
Yeah, and you throw it out. So we've made our disposable mindset worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy. That was huge information about the General Motors plant.
Yes, investing in gas,
big. I'd rather see people do that than cover up the 33.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Right.
It's going to be disruptive when they do that. It's going to take probably 4 or 5 years to do that.
Oh yeah.
But they're not wrecking the streets. They're not doing traffic, and it's just
diverting traffic. Yeah.
Diverting traffic.
Yep.
And on residential, so we're still seeing multiple offers.
Yeah. Yep. Still seeing multiple offers. Still seeing a lack of inventory. But the market is still really strong.
Market's still really strong and stable in Buffalo. And the stability thing, which we talked about, and I kind of made fun of, it's like an oxymoron. How could it be hottest market and stable? The stability thing goes to that sort of cultural piece that I talked about before with it. Not a lot usually happens
No
here.
peaks and valleys.
You don't have the peaks and valleys. So that gives us such stability.
Yeah.
And,
which is a good peace of mind especially a first-time home buyer or anybody who has multiple properties in real estate. It's a good peace of mind here for.
And the other thing is, I had a very, very refreshing conversation with a New York City broker who, much like myself, decided to move here like after he went to UB, and he liked it here. And we both sat and we talked about how much we like it here. I said, the people, especially from New York City, the one thing that drives you crazy is commuting.
Oh, yeah.
If you have to take the trains and the subways, you may die in the process. But then if you have to do it by car,
oh, yeah, forget it.
Awful.
Yeah.
And here, at the worst, you're 20 minutes to anything.
Yeah.
By the time you figured out you were driving, you're at your destination.
And you can always find a parking spot.
You know what? People complain, I can't get a parking spot. No, you don't know.
No idea. Yeah. Go to the grocery store and drive around for 45 minutes trying to find a spot.
I can't remember. I think it was on the honeymooners. They said, well, you know what you really need? You don't need a car. You need to have a trailer for the car. He says, why would I need a trailer for the car? I don't even have the car yet. He says, well, you have to have the trailer. He says, for what? He says, well, you need the trailer so that you have a place to live while you're looking for a place to park.
That's a good one. But good luck parking that car and trailer.
Oh, my God. It's actually a funny story, but we're going to save that for next time about the Winnebago thing.
Yep.
I'm actually responsible for one of the lines in the contract getting changed because of Winnebagos.
Oh, boy. Great.
But yeah, so business is good. People are buying. Don't think that they're not buying, and don't think that they're not selling, because they're doing a lot of that here. But commercial, a different animal.
Absolutely.
A different animal.
But I've seen it pick up in the last year as opposed to the last 3 years. So it's coming back.
I can tell you this: when we were in Vancouver at the first international convention in Canada 2 years ago, Joel and I, every person that was there, because the numbers are very different in Canada, especially in Vancouver, which is like Rodeo Drive in the mountains.
Yeah, Vancouver Island area.
It's amazing. The amount of money.
Yeah.
I had to laugh. They're either driving Lamborghinis, Maseratis, or like the guy that actually is responsible for us being with the EXP. He goes to work in a seaplane.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of money out there. But every person, when they heard our price point, because we're talking about three-ish.
On average.
He says, whatever you do, you should buy anything that's not moving. Anything. And I don't mean not moving price. Anything. Yeah. It's like, if it's
stuck in the ground.
If it's stuck in there, you buy it. You buy it right now. A big bar of steel, just buy.
Yep.
And you know what? I've known that, but it's always good to be reminded of it from somebody outside.
Absolutely. Yep.
So that's our story for this week. Residential is different from commercial. Market is still red hot.
Yep, absolutely.
And stable.
Yeah, and stable.
And we have a really cool guest that's going to sort of dip into this
commercial
a little deeper next week.
Yes. Yep.
Another person who's an expert, because we like to bring people that know what the heck they're talking about, so that you can be better informed. Absolutely. I'm Brendan Cunningham, the real estate doctor here at XP. What is it? Subscribe.
So please like, follow, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you're thinking, and if we can answer any questions, we'd be happy to do that for you.
And reach out to us. Send us a question.
Yeah.
Text us, and we can answer it. And if we can't, we'll say, I don't know. Ask him.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.